Welcome. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. Look, if you've ever just stopped, gazed at a magnificent magnolia tree in full bloom and thought to yourself, man, I really wish I had that in my yard. Well, you are exactly in the right place. Welcome to this comprehensive explainer on cultivating magnolias, where we're going to take that dream and turn it into a flourishing reality.
Imagine transforming your garden into a paradise with the enchanting blooms of a magnolia. Stay tuned and learn how to achieve this dream in your very own backyard. Seriously, even if you are a complete beginner gardener, by the end of our time together today, you'll have the exact knowledge you need to confidently grow and care for these breathtaking trees.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our 5-step roadmap for today. 1. Introduction and benefits. 2. Choosing the perfect location. 3. Steps for planting. 4. Year-round care. And 5. Troubleshooting common problems.
Section 1. Introduction and benefits.
Now you might just see a pretty flower, right? But get this, magnolias belong to an evolutionary lineage that literally dates back to an era before modern bees even existed. With over 200 species originating across Asia and the Americas, there is a massive variety out there to explore. Today, we generally divide them into two main camps. First, we have the deciduous magnolias, like the popular Magnolia solangiana or the star-shaped Magnolia stellata. These drop their leaves in winter, they're highly cold-resistant, and they famously produce their stunning blooms in early spring before the leaves even appear. On the flip side, we have evergreen magnolias, like the majestic Magnolia grandiflora. These keep their thick, glossy leaves all year round, but, they generally need warmer southern regions to truly thrive, as they're a bit more sensitive to extreme freezing.
So why should you plant one? Well, beyond the undeniable aesthetic beauty of their massive fragrant spring or summer blooms, having a magnolia really matters for your local environment. Because of their ancient, incredibly hardy morphology, they are fantastic for local ecosystems, attracting early pollinators like beetles. Plus, let's be honest, they instantly create a dramatic architectural focal point in absolutely any landscape. They are showstoppers.
Section 2. Choosing the perfect location.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part is that finding the right spot is absolutely crucial. You can't just stick a magnolia anywhere and hope for the best. Let's contrast the ideal conditions with the absolute deal breakers. For your magnolia to thrive, it needs full sun to partial shade. That means at least 6 hours of direct light a day. You want well-drained, slightly moist soil and a spot that offers some protection from strong, cold winds. On the other hand, what you absolutely must avoid is deep shade, which will severely limit flowering. You also want to run far away from heavy clay, waterlogged, or heavily rocky soils. And perhaps most importantly, avoid frost pockets. Those low spots in your yard where cold air just settles? Yeah, that cold air can completely destroy early spring flower buds.
And while we are talking about soil, take a look at this number, 5.5 to 6.5. This is the ideal, slightly acidic soil pH range that magnolias absolutely crave. Why is this so crucial? Because if your soil is too alkaline, the tree literally cannot absorb the nutrients it needs to produce those massive flowers, no matter how much you fertilize it. If your soil pH is too high, you might need to add organic material like pine mulch or compost to bring it down into that magic range.
Section 3. Steps for planting. I want to reassure you right now, planting is completely straightforward if you just follow a few simple rules. First up, timing is everything. The best season to plant entirely depends on your climate and the specific species you chose. Spring planting is generally best for evergreen magnolias and for gardeners living in colder regions. This gives the tree a full growing season to establish roots before winter hits. Autumn planting, on the other hand, is ideal for deciduous magnolias and folks in warmer regions, letting the roots settle in before the intense summer heat arrives.
All right, when you're ready to get your hands dirty, here are the 4 physical steps to success. Step 1. Dig a hole exactly as deep as the root ball, but 2 to 3 times wider. Step 2, and this is absolutely critical, place the root collar perfectly at the soil surface level. Do not bury it too deep. Step 3, fill the hole with the native soil and tamp it down firmly with your heel to remove any air pockets. Step 4, water it deeply. A good rule of thumb is about 9 liters of water, so basically a large watering can full, for a trunk that is 3 centimeters in diameter. Finally, apply a thick layer of organic mulch around the base to retain moisture. Just make sure it doesn't touch the trunk itself.
Section 4. Year-round care. Let's move to and see how this builds into essential year-round maintenance. For soil moisture, keep it consistently moist but never ever soggy. In year 1, you'll want to water 2 to 3 times a week. Once it's mature, a deep watering once a week during summer is usually enough. For fertilizer, they really don't need a lot of food, just strategic timing. Use a balanced granular fertilizer, like an 8-8-8 or 10-10-10, 2 to 3 times in spring and summer. Crucially, avoid late fall fertilization. Pushing new growth right before a freeze is just a recipe for frost damage, and nobody wants that.
So let's actually walk through a full year in the life of your magnolia. Early spring is all about waking up. Apply your first round of balanced fertilizer and perform a light sanitary pruning of any dead branches. Moving into summer, your focus shifts to deep, consistent watering and applying your second round of fertilizer. Come autumn, just let your deciduous trees naturally drop their leaves and apply a thick mulch around the base for root insulation. Finally, in winter, you might need to protect young evergreens from extreme freezing winds by wrapping them in burlap. As you can see, the care beautifully shifts from feeding in the spring to protection in the winter.
Section 5. Troubleshooting problems.
Look, nobody likes to think about their beautiful tree getting sick, but hey, it happens, and most issues are easily fixable. Often, what looks like a complete disaster is just minor environmental or pest stress. For example, if you see yellow leaves with green veins, your soil is likely too alkaline, so it's time to add that compost or pine mulch. Brown, dry leaf edges? Actually, scratch that fear of disease. That's usually just windburn or drought stress from extreme weather. Shriveled, curled leaves usually point to aphids or scale insects sucking the sap. And if you see a black sooty mold on the leaves, that's actually growing on the honeydew left behind by those same insects. The good news, you can usually just wipe the mold off with a damp rag and treat the minor insect issue, which natural predators often handle for you anyway.
And when things get a little more serious, and this brilliantly illustrates what to look out for, you might encounter issues like algal leaf spot. You can recognize this by those crusty gray-green or red-brown spots on the leaves. Or you might see bark canker. Notice the thickened, cracked lesions on the branch. This is a fungal issue that, while rarely fatal to the whole tree, can be very damaging to the infected branch.
But don't panic. Here are the solutions for these serious diseases. The absolute key here is hygiene. Rake up and destroy all fallen, infected leaves to stop the spread. For cankers or dense growth, selectively prune crossing branches. This dramatically improves airflow and sunlight, which fungi and algae absolutely hate. If wet conditions persist and algal leaf spot is severe, you can apply a copper-based fungicide every 2 weeks. And for severe cankers, simply cut away the infected branches using sterilized tools. Prevention through proper care is, for sure, your absolute best defense.
As we wrap up, I do need to share this quick professional disclaimer. This explainer provides general guidance based on expert sources. Always consult local gardening experts or agricultural extensions for advice tailored to your specific microclimate and soil conditions. Responsible, localized gardening is always the best way to ensure your success. So, we've covered the benefits, the planning, the planting, and the care. Now the ball is entirely in your court. Which magnolia species will you choose to transform your garden into a paradise this season? Whether it's the early blooming star magnolia or the majestic grandiflora, you now have the exact tools to make it happen. Thank you so much for joining me. Get out there and happy planting!